Hey everyone, it's Steve here at the DJ Lab looking at the RMX-1000 iOS app. This is an RMX-1000 on the iPad. So a couple things you can do. A, you can hook it up to your mixer and use it like an RMX-1000, or you can actually, when you unplug it here, you'll see up there, you can play music on this thing. So you could be playing songs from your iPad and run all the effects on it, so you can learn how to use an RMX-1000 without ever having to touch a DJ mixer, which is kind of cool in my opinion. But for this video, we're going to run it on the mixer. So make sure you got the right USB cable. It's got to be a data cable, and it's got to be a good data cable. I've tried a bunch of cables that didn't work. The cable for my Logitech Brio webcam works quite well. This is a 3.0 USB cable, so if you got a Brio webcam kicking around, just grab the cable and it will work. Make sure the USB insert, you got to go through the cycle, USB send, and that's the insert on the right. Make sure this is turned on. I like to have this about 1 o'clock, seems about right. When I turn that on and off, I'm not hearing any difference in the sound. Something you need to change quickly before you do anything. You got to go into customization, go into that gear icon, make sure you're at 128 samples. The default 256 gives you too much latency. Already there's a slight little bit of latency on this, but 128 seems to be much better. And of course, with customization, you can go in there and, just like with the remix box on the hardware side of things, you can tweak everything. Everything you want to tweak, you can. And the sampler, you have all these extra samples that you don't have on the RMX-1000 hardware that you can add. But you got these vocal shots here. Now let me tell you something. The whole sampler section and the overdub thing, in my opinion, I can't make it work that great, even though quantization's on, because there's that ever so slight little bit of latency. I can never get myself a good loop going. So I would suggest with the mixer, don't even bother. You know, the one shots, sure, but you can't even add your own samples into it. So that's a bit of a downfall. If you could have added your own one-shot samples, this thing would have been actually a lot more useful, to be honest. You can adjust your X pad, the built-in kick, snare, clap, and hi-hat. You can adjust the settings on that to tweak it up a little bit. Your isolator, obviously, if you want to, it's default 6 dB, but you can bump it up to 9 dB. And then you can adjust your frequency. Like, there's a lot of little tweaks you can do on this thing. So let's get to the customization for a sec, and I'm just going to show you a couple little things. If you double tap underneath, it resets it back to the default center. It's a very cool feature. Get your roll features. And like I said, once again, that's one of those things, because there's a slight little bit of a delay, I can't make the X-Pad roll effect work as good as I can on the hardware. So I'm just going to say, this is one of these things. This is really, really great, A, to run as a standalone thing and just play some songs and get familiar with an RMX-1000 without even using it with the DJ equipment. Or you got it at home and you're thinking about buying an RMX-1000 and you've got a V10, an A9, an Alpha Theta Euphonia. Like I said, the DGM 450 works without the charge-in. And don't believe everything you see on the app website for the store, because there's people saying it doesn't work with the V10, and it does. It's here plugged in. They were probably just using the wrong cable, because that could be an issue. This is something that will give you an idea what the RMX-1000 can do to help you make a decision whether you want to invest in buying the hardware or not, or practice a little bit on this, so when you go into a club, if they happen to have one there, you would at least know some tricks that you could do with it. So I think this is well worth the 20 bucks. You know what I mean? Like, if you already have the equipment and you don't have an RMX-1000, $20 is a pretty cheap investment to see if you're willing to go spend $1,000, if you can even find an RMX-1000 somewhere out there, because they're not easy to find. So yeah, that's it. You have any more questions for me, feel free to comment below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Subscriptions help. Hitting that like button really helps things and helps the algorithm. I'm probably the #1 channel on the internet right now when it comes to doing things for the RMX-1000, because you know what? This thing came out in 2012. The app came out in 2015. It's been around a while, but it still works and everybody uses it. So I highly suggest, if you don't own an RMX-1000, you try out the iPad version. Even if you do have the hardware, this is still kind of cool to have as a standalone, load up a song and test out and try out some cool effects on this thing. That's it. Talk to you all soon.